November 3rd, 1793. Paris. A woman is about to be guillotined. Her crime? Writing that women deserve the same rights as men. They thought killing her would silence the message. They were so wrong. Picture this. Revolutionary France, 1791. While men are screaming about liberty, equality, and brotherhood in the streets, literally writing these words into their new constitution, women can't vote, can't own property, can't even get a divorce if their husband is beating them. And into this mess walks Olympe de Gouges, a self-taught writer with zero formal education, the illegitimate daughter of a butcher, and she does something unthinkable. She writes her own declaration. The Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen. 17 articles, each one a direct challenge to the men running France. Article 1. Woman is born free and remains equal to man in rights. Just imagine the audacity. The men who wrote the original Declaration of the Rights of Man, they lose their minds. Because Olympe didn't just copy their homework and add "and women too" at the end. No, no, no. She exposed them. She held up a mirror to their hypocrisy and said, "You can't have it both ways. Either everyone is equal, or your revolution is a lie." They killed her for it, beheaded her in front of a screaming crowd. But here's the revenge. Her words? They outlived every single man who voted for her execution. Her declaration became the blueprint for women's rights movements across the entire world. And those men? History forgot most of their names. So buckle up, because this is the story of how one illegitimate daughter with zero political power took on the French Revolution itself, and won. But let's go back to where this revenge story really begins. 1748, Montauban, a small town in southern France. A baby girl is born, and already, the world has decided she's nothing. Her mother, and Olympe, is married to a butcher named Pierre Gouges. But everyone knows, that this baby isn't Pierre's. The real father? Jean-Jacques Lefranc de Pompignan, a wealthy aristocrat, a playwright, a member of the Académie Française. Does he claim her? Acknowledge her? Give her his name, his status, his protection? Absolutely not. See, in 18th century France, if you're born illegitimate, you're branded for life. You can't inherit. You can't join guilds. Certain professions are closed to you. And if you're a girl, forget it. Your only value is marrying whoever will have you and producing legitimate children. They name her Marie Gouges. Not Olympe. That comes later, a name she gives herself, because even her own name wasn't really hers. At 16 years old, she's married off to Louis Aubry, a caterer from Paris. Barely old enough to understand what's happening, and she's already locked into a life she didn't choose. But here's what they didn't count on. Marie Gouges is furious. She's furious at being illegitimate. Furious at being married off like livestock. Furious at watching her husband treat her like property. And when he dies, conveniently just a year or two later, leaving her a widow at 18. She refuses to remarry. Refuses. In a world where a woman without a husband is basically invisible, she looks at that system and says, "I'd rather be invisible than owned." And she makes a decision that will change everything. She's going to Paris. She's going to educate herself. She's going to write. And she's going to use the one weapon women aren't supposed to have, her voice. The disrespect doesn't end there. It never ends. In Paris, she starts writing plays. Revolutionary plays about slavery, about divorce, about women's rights. And the theater world, entirely controlled by men, laughs at her. The Comédie Française, the most prestigious theater in France, rejects her work over and over. Not because it's bad, because she's a woman. They literally tell her, women don't write serious theater. Critics mock her. They call her writing hysterical. They say she's unfeminine. They attack her appearance, her past, her illegitimacy, anything except her actual ideas. And the worst part? Other women who've made peace with the system, turn on her too, because Olympe's very existence is a threat. If she can demand more, then they have to ask themselves why they accepted less. She's alone, dismissed, disrespected by literally everyone with power. And she's just getting started. Okay, let's talk about what Olympe is up against. Because impossible odds doesn't even begin to cover it. First, she has no formal education. Zero. While aristocratic men are getting tutored in Latin, Greek, philosophy, and rhetoric, Olympe is teaching herself to read and write. Some historians think she might have been partially dyslexic. She definitely struggled with spelling her entire life. And she's competing against men who've had everything handed to them. Second, she's a woman in the 1780s. Let me paint you a picture of what that means. Women cannot vote, cannot hold political office, cannot attend university, cannot join professional guilds. If you're married, your husband legally owns you and everything you earn. If you're divorced or widowed, you're socially dead. If you have children out of wedlock, you're ruined. If you speak publicly about politics, you're hysterical or unnatural. The only acceptable roles for women are wife, mother, mistress, or none. That's it. Those are your options. Third, even the revolution doesn't want women. 1,789 hits. The Bastille falls. The Declaration of the Rights of Man gets written. And women are thinking, okay, finally, things will change. Wrong. The men of the revolution, Robespierre, Danton, Marat, they're happy to let women march. To let them starve in bread lines and riot when food runs out. They'll let women knit at the guillotine executions. They'll let women die for the revolution. But rights? Political power? Equality? No, ladies. This revolution is for men. Go home. Tend your children. Leave politics to us. And here's the cruelest part. The revolution's whole ideology is based on Enlightenment philosophy. Reason. Natural rights. Equality. They're literally saying, all men are born free and equal in rights. All men. The hypocrisy is staggering. And everyone just accepts it. Even the most radical revolutionaries, the ones executing kings and nobles for inequality, they still think women are naturally inferior. Fourth, Olympe has no money, no institutional support, no protection. Her biological father won't claim her. She has no husband to shield her, no family fortune, no powerful friends. The literary establishment hates her. The theater world mocks her. The revolutionaries dismiss her. She's trying to storm a castle with no army, no weapons, and no ladder. Everyone is telling her, you can't do this. Women don't do this. You're going to fail, and worse, you're going to get yourself killed. And they're not wrong about that last part. But here's what makes Olympe extraordinary. She looks at all of this, all the barriers, all the hatred, all the impossible odds, and she doesn't blink. She writes more. She speaks louder. She gets bolder. Because she's figured something out, something the men in power haven't realized yet. Revolutions don't stop where you tell them to. And she's about to prove it. 1788. 1 year before the revolution explodes. Olympe de Gouges does something that changes her life forever. She publishes a play called Black Slavery, or The Happy Shipwreck. And it's about exactly what you think it's about. At a time when France's entire economy is built on slavery in the Caribbean colonies, when fortunes are being made on the backs of enslaved people, when even mentioning abolition could get you destroyed, Olympe writes a play that says, this is evil. This has to end. And anyone profiting from this is a monster. The play centers on an enslaved man named Zamore, who falls in love with a French woman. It shows enslaved people as fully human, intelligent, emotional, equal. It depicts slave owners as the villains. Revolutionary stuff. Literally. The Comédie Française refuses to perform it. The colonial lobby, the wealthy plantation owners, they're threatening lawsuits, violence, boycotts. They want this play buried. But Olympe won't back down. She publishes it anyway, gets it performed at smaller theaters. And she writes a preface that's basically a dare. If you believe in liberty, you have to oppose slavery, or admit you're a hypocrite. This is her turning point, because she's learned something crucial. The system isn't going to let her in. She has to force her way in. She starts writing political pamphlets. Dozens of them. She's self-publishing, paying out of her own pocket, distributing them in the streets. And her strategy is brilliant. She doesn't ask for permission. She doesn't wait for men to invite her into political discourse. She just shows up and starts talking. She writes about slavery, about divorce, about the rights of illegitimate children, her own wound turned into a weapon, about poverty, about justice, and crucially, she frames everything in the language of the Enlightenment. Natural rights, reason, social contract. She's using their own philosophy against them. If you believe in natural rights, she argues, you can't exclude half the population. If you believe all humans are born equal, you can't justify slavery or women's oppression. It's logical. It's irrefutable. And the men hate it. Then 1789 hits. The revolution begins. The Bastille falls on July 14th. Suddenly, everything is chaos. The old order is collapsing. New ideas are flooding the streets. Women are everywhere, marching, protesting, demanding bread, demanding change. The Women's March on Versailles happens in October. Thousands of women, armed with pikes and kitchen knives, march 12 miles in the rain to drag the king back to Paris. They're done waiting politely. Olympe sees this and thinks, this is it. This is the moment. She doubles down on her writing. She's publishing pamphlets constantly. She's attending political clubs, spaces where women technically aren't supposed to be, but the rules are breaking down, so she slips in anyway. And she starts making a name for herself. Not with the establishment. They still hate her, but with the people. With other women who are waking up to their own power. With progressive men who actually believe their own rhetoric about equality. She's building an audience. Slowly. Dangerously. In 1790, she writes a pamphlet proposing a tax on the wealthy to fund social programs. She writes about reforming marriage laws. She even proposes maternity hospitals for unwed mothers because she was illegitimate and she knows how that system destroys lives. Every pamphlet is a risk because the revolutionary government is becoming increasingly paranoid. They're executing people for dissent, for saying the wrong thing, for being suspected of treason. But Olympe keeps writing, because she knows, if she stops now, if she lets fear silence her, then everything she's fought for dies with her silence. And then, in September 1791, she writes the document that will make her immortal and get her killed. The Declaration of the Rights of Woman and the Female Citizen. Here's where it gets dangerous. September 1791. The National Assembly has just passed the new French Constitution. And right there, in the preamble, are the words that will haunt them. Men are born and remain free and equal in rights. Men, not people, not citizens. Men. Olympe reads this and sees the opening. She sits down and writes a mirror document. Article by article, she takes the Declaration of the Rights of Man and rewrites it to include women. But she doesn't just swap man for woman. Oh no, she makes it brutal. Article 1. Woman is born free and lives equal to man in rights. Social distinctions can be based only on the common utility. Article 10, and this one is savage. Woman has the right to mount the scaffold. She must equally have the right to mount the rostrum. Translation. If you're going to execute women, you have to let them speak publicly. You can't have it both ways. She's saying, you're already treating us as political actors when you kill us for treason. So you can't claim we're too delicate or irrational for politics. Article 11. The free communication of thoughts and opinions is one of the most precious rights of women, since this liberty assures the legitimacy of fathers toward their children. She's tying freedom of speech for women to paternity, basically saying, if women can't speak freely, how do you even know your children are yours? It's cheeky. It's brilliant. It's designed to make men uncomfortable. She dedicates the Declaration to Marie Antoinette. Yes, the Queen. And before you think that's royalist propaganda, read what she actually writes. She tells Marie Antoinette, "You're a woman. You're oppressed too, even in your palace. Use your power to help other women, or history will judge you as complicit." It's not flattery. It's a challenge. The declaration gets published, circulated, and the reaction is mixed. Some women love it. They start citing it, organizing around it. It becomes a rallying cry for the growing women's rights movement. Progressive men, a small minority, actually engage with it seriously. But the men in power, the ones running the revolution, they're furious. Because Olympe has done something unforgivable. She's exposed them as hypocrites. She's used their own logic, their own words, their own Enlightenment philosophy, and shown that they don't actually believe in it. They believe in their rights, not universal rights, and they can't refute her logically. They can't argue that women are naturally inferior without sounding like the aristocrats they just overthrew, who claimed they were naturally superior to peasants. So instead, they dismiss her, mock her, call her names: unnatural woman, hysteric, troublemaker. One deputy literally says women discussing politics is like a hen crowing like a rooster. But here's the thing, Olympe doesn't need them to like her. She needs them to hear her. And they do. Oh, they do. Throughout 1792, she keeps writing. She's prolific, relentless. She writes about the trial of Louis XVI, argues they should exile him instead of executing him because more bloodshed won't fix France's problems. Risky. Extremely risky. Because the revolution is radicalizing. The moderates are being purged. Disagreeing with Robespierre is becoming a death sentence. But Olympe believes in her principles. She's anti-monarchy, but she's also anti-death penalty. She's revolutionary, but she's not bloodthirsty. She writes in favor of divorce rights for women, and this one passes. In 1792, France legalizes divorce, and women can initiate it. It's one of the most progressive divorce laws in the world at that time. Is it because of Olympe alone? No. But her pamphlets, her arguments, her relentless advocacy, she's part of the movement that makes it happen. For a brief moment, she's winning. Women are organizing political clubs. The Society of Revolutionary Republican Women is meeting regularly. Women are speaking in public forums, publishing newspapers, demanding representation. It looks like maybe, just maybe, the revolution will actually include women this time. Olympe is at the height of her influence. She's known across Paris. Her pamphlets are being read, debated, cited. She's no longer the dismissed illegitimate daughter. She's a voice in the revolution. And that's exactly when the men in power decide she's too dangerous to live. But the revolution is about to turn on its own. 1793. The revolution is eating itself. Louis XVI is executed in January. The Reign of Terror begins. Robespierre and the Committee of Public Safety are consolidating power. And their message is clear: agree with us or die. The guillotine is working overtime. Aristocrats, priests, moderates, anyone suspected of dissent, chop. Thousands of people, blood running in the streets. And in the middle of this chaos, Olympe de Gouges makes the decision that will seal her fate. She speaks out against the terror. Not quietly, not carefully, loudly. She publishes pamphlets saying, "This isn't justice. This is murder. We didn't overthrow a tyrant king just to install tyrant revolutionaries." She criticizes Robespierre by name. Do you understand how insane this is? People are being guillotined for less. For being vaguely suspected of royalist sympathies. For not being enthusiastic enough about the revolution. And Olympe is printing pamphlets calling the most powerful man in France a dictator. But here's her breakthrough moment. The thing that makes her more than just a political activist. She understands something the men don't. She sees that the revolution's violence isn't strength. It's fear. They're killing people because they're terrified. Terrified of losing power. Terrified of dissent. Terrified that their own logic will be turned against them, which is exactly what Olympe has been doing. So she writes what might be her most dangerous pamphlet yet, The Three Urns, or The Safety of the Fatherland, by a traveler aeronaut. In it, she proposes that France should decide its future through a referendum. Let the people vote on what kind of government they want. Republic? Constitutional monarchy? Federation of departments? Democracy. Actual democracy. The reaction from the government is immediate and brutal. Who is this woman to suggest how France should be governed? They call her a traitor, a royalist sympathizer, a counter-revolutionary. None of it is true. Olympe is anti-monarchy. She said so repeatedly. But she's also anti-dictatorship, and in 1793, that's the same as being an enemy of the state. What makes this a breakthrough? What makes this the moment where Olympe transcends her time is that she knows what speaking out will cost her.
She's not naive.
She's not reckless. She's choosing to speak anyway, because here's what she's figured out: silence won't save her. As a woman, as a political activist, as someone who's already challenged the status quo, she's already a target. They're already coming for women's political clubs, already shutting down women's participation in the revolution. In October 1793, the National Convention bans all women's political clubs. They outlaw women attending political assemblies. They literally say, women should stay home. Politics is for men. After everything women did for the revolution, after they marched on Versailles, after they starved for the cause, after they died for it, the revolution betrays them. And Olympe, she refuses to be silent. She posts her pamphlets on walls around Paris. She's not even trying to hide anymore. She signs her name, includes her address. It's almost like she's daring them to arrest her. And they do. In July 1793, she's arrested for her writings, specifically for the Three Urns pamphlet. The charge? Treason. Attempting to undermine the Republic. She's thrown in prison. And unlike aristocrats who might have money for bribes or connections for protection, Olympe has nothing. Just her words, her convictions, her absolute refusal to recant. They give her chances. Multiple chances. Just say you were wrong. Just say you support Robespierre. Just be quiet. She refuses. While imprisoned, she keeps writing. She smuggles out pamphlets defending herself, explaining her positions, refusing to back down. The trial is a joke. There's no real evidence of treason. She never supported the monarchy, never conspired with foreign powers. Her only crime is disagreement. But in revolutionary France, that's enough. November 2nd, 1793. She's found guilty, sentenced to death. Execution scheduled for the next morning. But what she does next is legendary. The night before her execution, November 2nd, 1793, Olympe de Gouges is in her cell at the Conciergerie prison, the same prison that held Marie Antoinette. Tomorrow morning, she'll walk to the scaffold and die. This is the crisis. The moment where everything could collapse, where her voice could be silenced forever. And what does she do? She writes one final letter, and it's addressed to her son, Pierre Aubry de Gouges. Remember him? He's a grown man now, an army officer, and he's ashamed of his mother. He's already publicly disowned her, published notices in newspapers saying, I have no association with the citizens Olympe de Gouges. Her political opinions are not mine. He's trying to save himself, distance himself from her radicalism, from her madness. Her own son has betrayed her, and in this final letter, Olympe writes to him anyway. But she doesn't beg, doesn't ask for forgiveness, doesn't apologize for embarrassing him. Instead, she writes, I die for having defended you. I wanted rights for you, for everyone. I wanted a France where justice mattered more than power. If that's a crime, then I'm guilty. She's not writing to change his mind. She's writing for history, because she knows something her executioners don't. This letter will survive. Her words will outlive her. But here's the crisis within the crisis. The Revolutionary Tribunal, the men who sentenced her to death, they're terrified of what she'll say on the scaffold. See, Executions in revolutionary France are public. They're theater. Thousands of people attend, and the condemned often get to speak before they die. Last words, final speeches, and the government knows Olympe will use that moment. She'll turn her execution into a platform. She'll expose their hypocrisy one last time. She'll make them look like tyrants in front of the crowd. So they do something they rarely do. They try to rush the execution. Try to minimize publicity. Try to keep the crowd small. But Paris is watching. Word has spread. They're executing Olympe de Gouges, the woman who wrote the Declaration for Women's Rights. People come. Not thousands, but enough. Enough witnesses. The morning of November 3rd, 1793. She's led from her cell, through the prison, into the cart that will take her to place de la Revolution. And here's where it gets devastating. The revolutionary government, in a final act of cruelty, has scheduled another execution right before hers. A man, a nobody. They execute him first.
Why?
To make her watch. To terrorize her. To break her spirit before she dies. The crowd watches as the blade falls, as his head drops into the basket. Then it's her turn. She's 45 years old. She's spent her entire adult life fighting. For women. For the enslaved. For illegitimate children. For justice. And this is her reward. The executioner leads her to the scaffold. Her hands are bound behind her back. The crowd is jeering, some of them. Others are silent. Some women are crying. She climbs the steps. The wooden platform creaks under her feet. This is it. The moment where her voice should be silenced forever. Where the men who hated her, who feared her, who wanted her erased, this is their victory, right?
Wrong.
Because they've made a catastrophic mistake. They think killing her will end the conversation about women's rights. They think her death will be a warning to other women. Speak up, and this happens to you. But instead, her execution becomes a rallying cry. The very act of killing her proves her point. Remember what she wrote in her declaration? Article 10. Woman has the right to mount the scaffold. She must equally have the right to mount the rostrum. She's literally on the scaffold now. They've given her the first part, and in doing so, they've proven she deserved the second part too. Her death isn't a defeat. It's the ultimate proof that she was right. And here's where the revenge begins. November 3rd, 1793, 11 a.m. Olympe de Gouges is dead. The men who ordered her execution, Robespierre, the Committee of Public Safety, the Revolutionary Tribunal, they think they've won. They've silenced the troublesome woman, made an example of her, put women back in their place. They go back to governing, back to executing more enemies of the state, back to their precious revolution that's only for men. And for a while, it looks like they succeeded. Women's political clubs stay banned. Women are pushed out of public life. The Declaration of the Rights of Women gets buried, forgotten, dismissed as the ravings of a madwoman. But here's the thing about ideas. You can't kill them with a guillotine. Less than a year after Olympe's execution, Robespierre himself is arrested, charged with tyranny, with being a dictator. And on July 28, 1794, in the ultimate irony, Robespierre is beheaded on the same scaffold where Olympe died. Poetic justice? Absolutely. But that's just the beginning of the revenge. The men who executed Olympe? History forgot most of them. Their names are footnotes. Trivia questions. Nobody builds monuments to the Committee of Public Safety. But Olympe? Her words survived. Her Declaration of the Rights of Woman gets republished. First in France, then across Europe, then around the world. 1848. Revolutions sweep Europe. Women are reading Olympe, citing her, using her arguments. 1893. New Zealand becomes the first country to give women the vote. 100 years after Olympe's death. And the suffragists there? They're using arguments straight from her declaration. 1920. United States. The 19th Amendment. Women get the vote. And if you read the suffragist literature, the speeches, the pamphlets, Olympe's influence is everywhere. Her argument, If you believe in natural rights, you have to include women, becomes the foundation of feminist thought for the next 2 centuries. 1948, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, United Nations. And look at the language. All human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Not all men. All human beings. That's Olympe. That's her victory. Her revenge on every man who said women weren't fully human. But it gets better. Remember how they tried to erase her from history? After her death, the revolutionary government literally tried to make people forget she existed. They didn't mention her in histories,
Didn't teach about her.
when they talked about the Declaration of the Rights of Man, they never mentioned her version. For over a century, she was a ghost. But you know what? Women didn't forget. Feminist historians in the late 1800s started digging, started finding her pamphlets in archives, started republishing her work. Simone de Beauvoir, the legendary French feminist, wrote about Olympe in The Second Sex in 1949, brought her back into public consciousness. By the 1970s, second-wave feminism is exploding, and Olympe becomes an icon. Streets get named after her. Schools. Statues get erected. Her face appears on commemorative stamps. In 2004, a square in Paris, right near the National Assembly, where the men who ordered her death used to meet, gets renamed Place Olympe de Gouges. Every single day, people walk through that square. Say her name. Remember her. The men who killed her? Their names are forgotten by most people. But Olympe? She's immortal. And here's the sweetest revenge of all. In 1946, over 150 years after her death, France finally grants women the right to vote. In 1975, France legalizes no-fault divorce, one of her key demands. In 2000, France passes a law requiring political parity, equal numbers of men and women on electoral lists. Every single right she demanded in her declaration, granted. Every argument the men made against her. Women are too emotional for politics. Women should stay home. Women don't need rights, destroyed. She won. She won everything. They killed her body, but her ideas conquered France, conquered Europe, conquered the world. And the men who dismissed her, who mocked her, who executed her, they're forgotten, irrelevant, historical villains. But Olympe de Gouges? She's the woman who proved that you can't kill an idea whose time has come. She's the woman who looked at the French Revolution and said, "You forgot half the population. Let me fix that for you." She's the woman who died for saying women are equal, and then history proved her right. That's not just revenge. That's immortality. But the story doesn't end there. So, why are we talking about Olympe de Gouges right now, on International Women's Day, 2026? Because her story isn't over. See, even though we've made progress, even though women can vote and own property and get divorced and run for office, we're still fighting battles Olympe identified over 230 years ago. Women's reproductive rights? Under attack in multiple countries. The wage gap still exists. Women in political leadership? Still vastly underrepresented globally. Violence against women? An epidemic. Olympe wrote in 1791, "Woman is born free and lives equal to man in rights." And in 2025, we're still having to argue this point. But here's why her story matters now more than ever. Olympe didn't have the internet, didn't have social media, didn't have legal protection, didn't have institutional support, didn't have anything except her voice and her refusal to be silent. And she changed the world. Every time a woman speaks up about inequality and gets told to calm down or be reasonable, that's Olympe's fight. Every time someone tries to roll back women's rights and women organize to fight back, that's Olympe's legacy. Every time a girl is told she can't do something because she's female and she does it anyway, that's Olympe's revenge continuing. Her story was buried for a reason. Because if women know what one determined woman with no resources can accomplish, that's dangerous to systems of power. If women know that Olympe, an illegitimate daughter with no education, took on the French Revolution and won, even if she didn't live to see it, What can we accomplish with all the tools and rights we have now? That's the terror for people who want to keep women oppressed. Olympe's story is a roadmap. It shows us. White heavy checkmark, you don't need permission to speak truth to power. White heavy checkmark, you don't need credentials to demand justice. White heavy checkmark, you don't need protection to be brave. White heavy checkmark, your words can outlive your enemy. White heavy checkmark, they can kill you, but they can't kill your idea. And here's the part that makes me emotional. Olympe died thinking she failed. She died watching the revolution betray its own principles. Watching women get pushed back into silence. Watching her son disown her. Watching everything she fought for seemingly collapse. She couldn't have known that 230+ years later, millions of people would know her name, would study her writings, would teach her story to their daughters. She couldn't have known that her declaration would be taught in universities worldwide, would be cited in legal arguments, would inspire generations of feminists. She couldn't have known that the men who killed her would be reviled by history, while she would be celebrated. She died thinking she lost, but she won. She won so completely that we're literally still living in the world her words created. Every woman who votes, that's Olympe. Every woman who divorces an abusive husband, that's Olympe. Every woman who speaks up in a political meeting, that's Olympe. Every woman who demands equality and refuses to settle for less, that's Olympe. Her revenge isn't just that she proved her oppressors wrong. Her revenge is that she made a world where her oppressors' grandchildren would be ashamed of what was done to her. Her revenge is that she turned her execution into proof of her argument. Her revenge is immortality. And on this International Women's Day, we're not just remembering Olympe de Gouges. We're continuing her fight, because every right women have today, someone died for it. Someone was mocked for it. Someone was told to be quiet. Someone refused. Olympe was one of the first, but she's not the last. And that's the real legacy. She showed us that the fight is worth it, even if you don't live to see the victory. Even if they kill you for it, the ideas survive. The truth wins. Justice eventually comes. They tried to erase her. They failed. And that failure? That's the greatest revenge of all. So, let's recap this revenge story. An illegitimate daughter with no power, no education, and no protection took on the French Revolution itself. She demanded equality when equality was heresy. She refused to be silenced when silence meant survival. They executed her for it, and in death, she won. Her words outlived her executioners. Her ideas conquered the world. Her name is immortal while theirs are forgotten. They tried to erase her. They failed. This is Olympe de Gouges, revolutionary, feminist, abolitionist, writer, legend, the woman they killed for demanding equality, and who got the last word anyway. If you want more revenge stories of women history tried to bury, hit that subscribe button right now. Every week, we're bringing you the untold stories of women who refused to stay silent, who changed the world, and who got their revenge on everyone who doubted them. And here's my question for you. If Olympe could fight for equality with nothing but a pen and unshakable courage in 1791, what's your excuse for staying silent about injustice in 2026? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's talk about it.